Today we're going to talk about palms, which are very much part of the Lanzarote vibe. You'll see them everywhere on the island in business logos. For example, our Lanzarote information website uses a palm as its logo. You'll see them mentioned on road names, for example, Avenida de las Palmeras, which is the Avenue of the Palms, all over the island. So they're a really important part of Lanzarote. And by the end of this video, I'll have explained to you the two key types of palms you'll see, how you'll be able to identify them, and how you'll be able to impress your friends by saying, that's a Canarian palm, or that one's a Washingtonian palm. And stay tuned until the end, because at the end of this video, I'm going to take you around our garden to show you real life examples of the palms we have here at our house in Haria. Now, believe it or not, there are over 2,000 varieties of palm that you will see on Lanzarote. But today we're going to focus on two, and these two cover the vast majority of the palms we have on the island. And we'll start off by talking about the Canarian palm, which is the one that originates in the Canary Islands, and the Latin name for it is Phoenix canariensis. And this is the thicker, fatter trunked palm, which has a big ball of leaves at the top of it. The leaves can be up to 6 meters long. And these palms historically were very, very important to the indigenous people of Lanzarote and the other Canary Islands. Now, these were important for two reasons. First of all, they provided a food source via the dates that they produce. But the secondary reason was that the leaves are really useful to make things out of. And when they are dried, they can be woven to create baskets, they can create hats, and all kinds of useful things. And people all over the island still make these products using the original palm leaves. They're also brilliant as sweeping brushes, and the road cleaners in our village of Haria use big palm leaves to sweep the roads every morning. So you'll see them in use all of the time. Now, these Canarian palms can grow up to around 20 meters in height. They're very slow growing, and as I said before, they're easily identifiable by the fact that the leaves create a kind of ball effect, so they're much larger than the other palm we're going to talk about in a moment. They also produce a palm honey, and this is particularly done in La Gomera, where people will scale the palms, drill a hole in them, put a stopper in it, and then come and empty the sap from it once a day, usually in the evenings, because the sap doesn't like to be exposed to sunlight. They then boil that sap down to produce a beautiful sugary sweet syrup. And this syrup is called miel de palma, so the honey of the palm. And it's very much prized here. It's beautifully sweet. It has a different taste to maple syrup, which of course comes from Canada, but a similar kind of aspect to it. And it doesn't harm the trees when they are tapped for the sap. The people of La Palma and El Hierro and La Gomera who do these recycle them every 5 or 6 years. So they'll have a season from January to August where they're tapping the sap from the trees, and then that tree is left alone for 5 to 6 years to kind of resupply itself with sap before it's tapped again. So that's the Canarian palm, and you won't just see them in the Canaries, you'll see them all over the world. They're in Miami, they're in some of the Greek islands, I've seen them. So, you know, as we walk around various places around the world, I will quite often say to Julie, oh, look, there's a Canarian palm. It makes me feel at home. Let's move on now to the next most common palm, which is the Washingtonian or the Washington palm. And these look completely different. They tend to have a much thinner trunk. They grow significantly faster and much taller. But at the top, instead of having a kind of ball of leaves, the leaves end up in that kind of shape. Now these, in terms of Latin names, fall into two categories. One is called Filofera, and the other is called Robusta. And they're also often known as Californian palms or Mexican fan palms. These will grow up to around 25 metres, and unlike the Canarian palm, they are quite comfortable being located very close to the sea. Canarian palms traditionally do not like salty water or brackish water. The leaves are much shorter, they tend to be no more than about 2 metres in length. And like the Canarian palm, they have small white flowers which come out once a year at flowering time, and they also produce a small brown fruit, but that one isn't edible. Now we have had an issue here with palms in recent years, and that's because of a pest that was introduced to the island called the red weevil. And these red weevils, the females will lay up to 300 eggs at a time, and the larvae then bore small holes into the centre of the palm, and they gradually eat the flesh from the inside of the palm out. They can kill it if untreated. The good news is they tend to attack the younger palms. So once a palm is 20 years old or more, the wood's too hard for them. So if you can help them get through that initial 20-year period, then they tend to be safe from the red weevil attack. The Canarian palm is actually a protected species now, and if you have them on your land, you're not allowed to move them. You should only use professional trimmers to come and look after them, because they will check for red weevil, and they will also trim the tree in such a way that it's more difficult for the weevil to lay their eggs. Now, Haria, which is where we live, is known as the Valley of 1,000 Palms. And there's a story behind that. Traditionally in the village of Haria, which long before tourism was one of the more prosperous towns on the island, because the area around it was relatively fertile. The landowners here used to plant a palm for every child that was born. Now, rumour has it they planted 2 for a son and 1 for a daughter. I don't know how true that is. But certainly, as you'll see when we go around our garden in a moment, the people who owned our house from 200 years ago until the point that we bought it planted palms for the sons that were born in the family. So let's go outside now and take a look at the palms in our garden with you. Now, just to illustrate the point I was making about this being the Valley of 1,000 Palms, it's probably nearer 10,000, but all of those you're looking at now, apart from the one in the immediate foreground, are just in the street at one side of our house. They're all Washingtonian palms. Now, on our land, we have 3 Canarian palms and 2 Washingtonians, and this one, centre of frame now, is our Washingtonian, and as you can see, it's pretty high. And this is only about 15 years old, but it gets watered by the outlet from the washing machine, so it does rather well. Beautiful trunk on it, been maintained by our palm man Frank, and he does a super job of looking after that one. This is the other Washington palm. This is a little bit newer. This one we planted shortly after our son left home, so I guess it's 7, 8, 9 years old. As you can see, it's grown very quickly in a relatively short space of time. So these Washington palms grow fast. Now, we bought this house from Don Valenciano, and Don Valenciano told me that the 2 palms I'm going to show you now were planted for him and for his son, and they're right in the front of the garden by the driveway. These are Canarian palms. They've been beautifully shaved with the leaf ball created by Frank, and they just look fantastic. So this is one of them. And here's the other with the first one in the background. Again, a beautiful job, a lovely leaf ball. I have a big solar light under this one, so it's lit up at night and it looks spectacular. And let's look at the last one, which is the daddy of them all. This one is an absolute beauty. This was planted for the grandfather of Don Valenciano. It's, I think it's about 25 metres tall, which is 5 metres higher than they're supposed to grow, these Canarian palms. In fact, it's so tall that Frank couldn't climb it, partly because of the angle of it, but it's well known in the village. We think it might be the tallest Canarian palm in Haria. It's certainly very well known here. Frank got a cherry picker in a few weeks ago and trimmed it for us, so you can see he's got a nice leaf ball on it. And we think it's about 200 years old, that one. And then these are the two that you can see from our driveway against a nice blue sky. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. A little story about the palms of Lanzarote. Very much a part of life here. Thanks for watching. We really appreciate every single view. If you like the video, please like it. If you have a comment or a question, please leave it in comments. We'll be back with another video very soon. Bye for now.